Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Thursday, October the 3rd, 2024. On the show tonight, will we have an election in Canada before Christmas? Before the American election even? I doubt it. The American election is coming up in 31 or 32 days, and there wouldn't be enough time for the campaign. The writ needs to drop, and then within 28 days, an election needs to happen according to the laws of Canada when a government falls or when a snap election is called. That's just the rules according to electionscanada.ca. So doubtful there's going to be an election in Canada before the US election, but it's possible that we could have one before Christmas based upon the fix that Justin Trudeau has put himself in. And we're going to have more on that within the first 20 minutes of the show tonight. Also, are the Liberals responsible for the Jasper Fire? You might be thinking, how is that even possible? Well, the Conservatives have uncovered actual documents showing that the Liberals ignored warnings to clean up the old dried wood in Jasper, which is a national park, by the way. So it's under federal responsibility. They ignored orders for 7 years to clean up the old dried wood, lest it start a forest fire. They did not do it. And look what happened this past year. One of the jewels of Canada was completely destroyed by fire. Was it intentionally set? Well, that's a whole other question and not involved in this particular topic of discussion, but that's coming up in the first 20 minutes of the show as well. And then for those of you who are all access members on shadowdavis.com, you get to see the extension tonight. And this is painful for me because I'm such a big Beatles fan, but I got kind of caught in one of those video, not necessarily YouTube, because I was going between BitChute today and YouTube and Rumble and all of the other video platforms that you can find online. And I fell down this rabbit hole about the Beatles and the Tavistock Institute and the fact that they may not have written their own music even, and that they were a Trojan horse, an experiment by the Tavistock Institute in the UK to destroy the fabric of American culture, to make way for a new Marxist revolution. And remember, if we go back to Yuri Bezmenov's interview in 1984, he talks about that very thing. He talks about destabilization, which is exactly what this was, maybe. So we're going to cover that, and it's a wild. And you know what? It completely threw me upside down. I'd heard rumblings about this before, but like many people who don't want to hear about the vaccines or about masks or about COVID altogether, I just kind of went, la, 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 la. I don't want to hear this because I'm so tied to this group since I'm 14 years old. I've been this fan. And if I hear that they were brainwashed by Tavistock and that everything they did was a lie, I don't know. It might completely destroy me from the inside. And let me ask you this as kind of a thread question tonight, the question of the night. What would it take for you to hear that would completely upend your idea of reality? If you heard something that was later found out to be completely and totally accurate, whatever that thing is, would it upend your reality, your basic existence? Is it the moon landing? Is it the earth is flat? Any one of those things. If any one of those things, or anything else for that matter, were proven to be 100%, what would it take for your reality to be upended at this stage of the game? And I know my Beatles thing sounds kind of trivial, but I have been a fan of that band for so long. And for me to find out something like this would be heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. The Shadow at Night live stream is brought to you, as always, by CanadaNanoSilver.com. We'll tell you more about that fine product in a little while. I want to go back to, at least partially go back to what we were talking about last night in regards to the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Plan 2050, which is the smart city plan for Winnipeg and the 17 surrounding rural municipalities. And again, there's a big meeting in Selkirk. Ken Lee, Ken Drysdale, and myself will be there. Hopefully you'll be there as well at the Selkirk Rec Center Saturday afternoon between 1 and 4 o'clock. If you're in the area, please come and get there early because seating is going to be limited. This comes from the RM of McDonald. Just today, they put this on their website. This municipality is located southwest of Winnipeg. It includes communities like Brunkild and LaSalle. Statement from the RM of McDonald on Plan 2050. The municipality feels compelled to address the ongoing discussion surrounding Plan 2050 and our participation in the WMR. From its inception over 25 years ago, our municipality has been an active member of the WMR, formerly known as the Manitoba Capital Region. Working together with neighboring municipalities has allowed us to pool resources, share knowledge, and collectively address common challenges. Membership in the WMR was voluntary. However, in November of 2020, the provincial government, and now this is under a conservative government, November 2020, the provincial government introduced Bill 37. This legislation mandated our participation in the WMR and directed the preparation and adoption of a regional plan for the 18 municipalities within the WMR. We recognize the benefit of regional planning because we also understand that resources, whether federal, provincial, or municipal, are finite. Our support for regional coordination and cooperation stems from a belief in creating efficiencies that promote responsible growth. Premier Wab Kinew has previously indicated the province will introduce new legislation this fall, providing municipalities with the ability to opt out or in of the WMR. Before we decide whether to continue our participation, we must carefully review the province's new legislation. At this time, the municipality does not support Plan 2050 or its adoption. Our involvement with the WMR has always been rooted in the belief that collaboration benefits our citizens, and I believe that as well. But the WMR plan takes things too far. 15-minute city too far. Rest assured, our foremost priority will be that local autonomy and decision-making be held up as we represent the best interests of this municipality. The council is signed by all of the councillors and the mayor of the RM of McDonald. So that's a good thing, with the only exception being they don't actually discuss why they don't support the plan. I would like a little bit more detail as to their thinking, but for now, we'll take that as a bit of a win. All right. Could we have an election in Canada before Christmas? It is absolutely possible. Justin Trudeau is in desperation mode, and his new plan, apparently, his new media plan anyway, is to go out and do media. And I find this hilarious because he's been doing this for his entire tenure as prime minister. But anyway, his new media plan is to go out and do interviews only with friendly media. This is a report from City News Everywhere.
If I could do things differently, I don't know exactly how I would have, but I certainly would have done things differently around electoral reform to try and make sure that we are not going to be fighting this next election under first past the post again.
It's presented as an unguarded conversation with the Prime Minister. It's also part of a new media strategy from Justin Trudeau, sit-down interviews with friendly hosts, including in a podcast hosted by one of his own MPs.
I mean, in some ways, one has to wonder why it's taken this long to try to take a different approach or connect more directly, whether it be to his own caucus or to the people of Canada.
The podcast interview with Beach's East York MP Nathaniel Erskine Smith comes shortly after a similarly gentle interview with American late-night host Stephen Colbert. Political scientist Laurie Williams says this approach is hardly groundbreaking.
It's not the first time this strategy has been used. A very controlled sort of media strategy is something that a lot of politicians increasingly are using to the frustration of people who want sort of challenges on particular issues.
In the interview with Erskine Smith, Trudeau talks about regrets over electoral reform, why he didn't attack Pierre Poilievre earlier, and being troubled.
He's doing an interview with one of his own MPs.
Meet Singh didn't give him notice the NDP were leaving the supply and confidence deal. But whether the interview will help a party that faces the risk of a major loss in the next general election is unclear.
I don't know if he really thinks this is going to make a difference and he can win the next election, or if he's just trying to diminish the damage that has been done up until this point.
In Ottawa, Shaoli Lee, City News.
All right, so there's that. That's Trudeau's new strategy as he tries to climb out from under a deficit, according to most polls, in the polling aggregates of over 20 points nationwide. And if you take out Quebec, we're talking about almost 30, almost actually over 30, because the NDP in that scenario is in second place, with the Conservatives at 50%, 50 without Quebec nationally. Then the NDP is next, I think, at 22%, and the Liberals fall in at 18% without Quebec. The poll projections right now in terms of seats show the Conservatives up around 210, the NDP around 14, the Bloc in around 42, and the Liberals somewhere in the area of 50, maybe 51 or 52 seats. And that is being generous. So I scoured the left-wing corporate media today for any indication that this story was being covered. For those of you that don't know about it, apparently the business of government, not the opposition, the business of government in the House of Commons in Parliament has been suspended until they produce documents related to the scandals regarding their green slush fund and the 2 Randy scandal as well. And so far, the Liberals are refusing, not necessarily because they don't think they should, they say, because it sets a terrible precedent in the House of Commons. And besides, they say the RCMP don't even want these documents anyway. Listen to Andrew Scheer's press conference from yesterday. We'll give you the short version of it. Here you go.
After 9 years, Justin Trudeau has shown that he's not worth the cost or the corruption. The Speaker has just recently ruled that all House business, all government business must be put aside while members of Parliament consider Liberal corruption. First, we had the case of the Green Slush Fund, the SDTC fund, where the Auditor General found over $330 million funneled to Liberal insiders' own businesses. She found massive conflicts of interest. Basically, these Liberal appointed board members who made the decision as to which companies got money, taxpayers' money, from this fund, were funneling that money to their own businesses or to the businesses of their close friends. So the Auditor General has blown the whistle on that, yet the government refuses to hand over the documents to the RCMP. The House of Commons passed a production order demanding that all documents, all information that the Auditor General uncovered, plus any documents that might exist in any government department related to this scandal, be handed over to the RCMP. The government is refusing, and as a result, the House will be seized with this corruption matter until they hand over the documents. And then we have the case of the other Randy, where a senior Trudeau minister is alleged to have been sitting around the cabinet table while also involved in his own business's affairs. His business partner was summoned before a committee and refused to disclose all the information, refused to name who the other Randy is, refused to hand over all the documents and answer the questions that were put to him. And as a result, the House is seized with that motion as well. So what we're saying today is that the government will not be able to, the House will be staying on these corruption matters until the Liberals hand over all the documents to the RCMP. While Canadians are suffering with the cost of living crisis that Justin Trudeau...
Okay, we don't need to go through the rest of it. That is the opposition House leader for the Conservative Party of Canada, Andrew Scheer, former leader of the CPC, as you know. So I scoured the left-wing corporate media last night because I thought that was a pretty big story. You know, if I'm sitting in a newsroom, I'm going, the government can't advance their own agenda? Because the Speaker, who also happens to be a Liberal, says, I'm sorry, until you produce these documents. By the way, the House, all of the opposition parties, as you know by now, voted against the Liberals. And are making them, essentially, this is an order of the House of Commons now. The House has this authority, making the government turn over documents the government is not going to turn over. So now they're in breach of House orders. They're in contempt of the House of Commons. And the Speaker has said, as your penalty, you're not going to be allowed to advance any of your own agenda until this matter is settled, until you give those unredacted documents to the RCMP. The Liberal government is still refusing to do that. And I couldn't find that story anywhere in the left-wing corporate media until this afternoon. About 3 hours ago, I found this little blip on the CBC with this awful woman, Karina Gould. She's the government House leader in the House of Commons. And this is all it is on the CBC. And I couldn't find it on CTV or on Global. Government business on pause as Conservatives demand documents on defunct Green Tech Foundation. Government business has been put on indefinite pause in the House of Commons, as you know, blah, 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 blah. So I just told you the entire story. So that's the only report so far that I've been able to find on the left-wing corporate media covering this story, which is remarkable. It's a huge story. It's massive. The government can't do its job. The government can't do what they were elected to do. Now, I'm happy about this. Don't get me wrong, because it's the Liberals. So right now, they're suspended from damaging our country any longer. It got debated in the House of Commons today. And let's kick it off with, this is a 3-minute, 45-second segment from the House of Commons question period today, starting with Pierre Poilievre.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Paralyzed, unable to work on the problem of doubling housing costs or 2 million people at the food bank because the government is refusing to respect your ruling to turn over evidence in the criminal investigation of the latest Liberal scandal. At issue is that Liberal appointees directed $400 million to companies they own involving 184 conflicts of interest, according to the Auditor General. Why is the Prime Minister breaking your ruling to cover up criminal evidence in the latest Liberal scandal?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, the Leader of the Opposition is negating to tell the whole truth to Canadians.
Did she mean neglecting? I think she probably meant neglecting, not negating. Completely different word.
Because what the Conservatives are doing are trying to use the extraordinary powers of this place to circumvent the judicial requirement of police to protect the charter rights of Canadians. Now, I want to believe that the Leader of the Opposition doesn't understand what he's doing, but I'm even more concerned that he does understand and the charter rights of Canadians are not important to him.
All right, so if I'm Poilievre right now, and maybe this is the Liberals setting some kind of a trap, but if I'm Poilievre, I'm going, what charter rights are being violated here? Can you please explain to me how exposing government fraud and mismanagement of public funds is exploiting somebody's charter rights, considering that your government was found to be in breach of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms back in January on that federal court ruling from Justice Morley. Is it Morley? I think it was Morley, regarding the Emergencies Act invocation. Anyway, let's continue on.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It should be no surprise that Liberals believe that white-collar criminals can hand over $400 million to their own companies, because we see the case of the dirtbag Tibor Organo, who shot a police officer in the stomach.
Now, I don't know why Poilievre decided to move on so quickly from this topic, because, you know, if the government is seized, he should be seizing on that issue and just hammering them. But instead, he chooses to talk about something else, which is still fairly entertaining. Let's watch.
Yesterday, while he was out on bail after having been arrested for 24 offenses he committed while he was out on probation. So let's get this straight. He's out on probation for many crimes. He gets arrested for violating probation, so he gets released on bail and shoots a police officer. When will this government finally accept that their hug-a-thug, catch-and-release system is putting our people at risk?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our hearts go out to the police officer because no police officer should be hurt in the line of duty. But, Mr. Speaker, what is extremely concerning is what the Leader of the Opposition is doing in this House today, where he is trampling the charter rights of Canadians. Whether it is in this House, whether it is outside, Canadians need to be extremely alarmed about the fact that when it comes to their rights, his first instinct is to trample over them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I think you have a charter right to get released after 24 offences while you're already on probation and shoot a police officer in the stomach. I'm more worried about the charter rights of the police officer who's recovering from the gunshot. This is what the police officer said. Almost everyone we arrest is out on bail. No one stays in jail where they belong. The city and the feds just don't care. It just doesn't bother them. It doesn't matter how many die and if a cop gets shot.
That's right.
What's wrong with you people?
I'd like to remind the Honourable Leader of the Opposition as well as...
Order. All right, that's enough of that. The Shadow at Night live stream is brought to you by Canada Nano Silver, CanadaNanoSilver.ca. The toothpaste coming in multiple different flavors, including cinnamon, bubbleberry, and spearmint. It is naturally whitening. It helps keep your teeth clean with triple action Nano Silver, the power of Silverceutical technology. Silverceuticals is made from only the highest quality ingredients. This unique toothpaste is kid safe, and the kids love the bubbleberry and uses powerful natural ingredients. Triple action Nano Silver helps clean your teeth and promotes healthy teeth and gums. That above ground mined coral calcium helps to scrub and remineralize your teeth. Again, get this toothpaste in 3 different flavors: the bubbleberry, which is probably for the kids or the grandkids, spearmint, cinnamon, available only at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. If you're looking for a retail location near you, you can find them all here. There's over 30 across the country: Alberta, BC, Manitoba, Newfoundland, Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan on the retail locations tab. And if you would like to be a retailer of these awesome products, get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.com. New bombshell evidence. Now, there are people out there who are wondering, 5 variations of the toothpaste, all without fluoride. That's right. I forgot to mention, Kev. I forgot to mention that the toothpaste has no fluoride, like all of the other ones you buy in Shoppers Drug Mart and London Drugs do. This does not. A lot of you are talking about directed energy weapons. And while I don't discount that possibility, I'm talking about the Jasper Fire here and all of the other disasters that we've seen, fires, earthquakes, and all of that stuff around the world in the past 24 months. I don't discount it, but we have no proof of it. So when people who are sitting there trolling in the comment section say, why do you waste our time with this crap? Because I have no proof that anything that you want me to talk about is actually true. Can I say these kinds of weapons or instruments exist? Of course I can. It's in government literature. Can I say they were used to cause hurricanes? Can I say they were used to cause earthquakes, events of mass destruction, fires, hurricanes? Of course I can't, because I haven't got the proof or any evidence to back up those claims. Can I say that this hurricane was caused by them in order to disrupt the American economy? I can't, because I haven't got any proof of those claims. I can insinuate, I can intimate, I can guess, but I cannot say with any kind of credibility that those things are true. What I can tell you is that if there is a Canadian election before the end of the year, that's pretty damn significant, considering the points I've made in the past couple of weeks. And what my feelings are, excuse me, on Pierre Poilievre being a WEF crony, which I personally don't believe. Not for a second. Do I believe that Chrystia Freeland and Carbon Tax Carney and Justin Trudeau and all of the other puppets in the Liberal cabinet are working for the WEF? Absolutely, I do. 100%. And the proof is in the pudding, my friends. If you're looking for boogeymen hiding behind hedges, chances are good you're only going to come up with speculation and hearsay, innuendo, fingers pointing. If you want proof, just look at the record. That's all you need to do. Listen to them talk. That's all you need to do. That's it. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but when Erin O'Toole was elected as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada a few years ago, Pierre Poilievre was going to join that race and then suddenly pulled back. He didn't want to, for some reason, claiming family issues, like I want to spend more time with my wife and my kids, blah, blah, blah. I think there was something else going on there. I think there were certain powers that were holding him back from running for the leader of the CPC at that point. Now, in the next one, once they ousted O'Toole from the leadership, in the next leadership race, he did join that. Did he suddenly, in that time period, become allied somehow with the World Economic Forum, or did he overcome those influences and kick them out? I don't know. I can't speculate on that because I don't have any shreds of proof or evidence. What I can say is that privately, he has called the Trudeaus, Pierre and Justin, Marxists. He is fully aware of the Marxist agenda that's taking over Canada. In his last television commercial, he said woke policies. You prove to me, without using that stupid time machine website, that Pierre Poilievre is in fact a member of the World Economic Forum and a puppet of the Cabal. Prove it. Prove it. I will listen to you. I'll take the time and I will read the evidence that you send me. But don't send me that stupid time machine website with Pierre Poilievre's name on the World Economic Forum website, because that's absolutely ridiculous. Please don't waste our time with that crap. Thank you. Bombshell evidence from CPC MP Dan Mazur says there is more proof that Minister Stephen Guilbeault, the crazy environment and climate change minister, and his senior officials discussed canceling planned prescribed burns in Western Canada months before Jasper burned to the ground. Newly obtained emails now reveal that this discussion was so alarming that the executive director of conservation replied, begging Parks Canada to put forest management above politics. Same thing happened in California when they had those so-called wildfires a few years ago. It's critical to continue those kinds of burns, experts warned. Why was Minister Guilbeault's department considering canceling forest management practices because of political optics? Was Minister Guilbeault directing this insanity? And there it is right there. It's available all over social media. The Liberals not taking proper care of an absolutely fixable situation, and one of Canada's most beautiful areas burned to the ground because of it. Of course, they'll blame climate change. From TNC.news, the Bloc Québécois is threatening to force an election now if the Liberals don't support their pension bill. The Liberals already voted against this pension bill because they feel it's against protocol for an opposition motion to pass and become law. They think that they should be the ones to do it, but they can't do it right now because all government activity in the House of Commons is suspended because of corruption. But there's a deadline that the Bloc has imposed. After voting with the Liberals against a Conservative non-confidence motion in exchange for gains for Quebec, BQ leader Yves-François Blanchet has threatened to force an early election next week if his demands are not met. Blanchet's threat to the government for an early election relies on the government's response to a private member's bill sponsored by a BQ MP, Bill C-319, asking the government to raise the income that Canadians aged 65 and older receive from OAS by 10%. The bill would also raise the exemption for a person's employment income or self-employed earnings that's taken into account in determining the amount of the guaranteed income supplement from $5,000 to $6,500. It should go up to $20,000. It should be all tax-free, in my opinion. We're talking about seniors here. They've paid their dues already. When the BQ first announced its willingness to form a coalition with the Liberals, it also asked for more autonomy for Quebec over its language laws and the number of immigrants admitted to the province, and they got that. The Conservatives, NDP, and Green Party have said they're voting for the royal agreement of the BQ-led bill, with the Liberal government being the only holdout. So they've got the majority here. During a press conference Wednesday, today, Blanchette gave the Liberal government a deadline to support the private member's bill to raise the OAS funding for seniors or face a potential election, and that deadline is October the 29th. So here's the question that I have for you before we get into this next thing here. And the question is this. The Bloc Québécois introduces a vote of non-confidence if the Liberals don't capitulate to their demands on October the 29th. Of course, the Conservatives vote along with the Bloc. That gives them roughly 154, 155 votes. What does the NDP do? What does the NDP do? Does the NDP vote to keep this corrupt? And now, I mean, like, the government is suspended from doing any business because of corruption, and even more corruption in trying to keep documents secret from Canadians and from the RCMP. How on earth could the NDP vote with the government, give them a vote of confidence, and keep them in power? Especially after Jagmeet Singh painted himself into a corner a few weeks ago, saying their supply and demand, or whatever the hell it was called, supply and confidence agreement, is now kaput. He ripped it up. It's over. Their vote share goes down even more all across the country. And whose goes up? The Conservatives. So here's another rationale for you if you want to tell me that Pierre Poilievre is a World Economic Forum puppet. Why on earth are the Liberals and the NDP so desperate to stay in power? Why? Don't you think that Uncle Klaus, would have gone to Justin and said, all right, you've had your time. Now Pierre is going to carry our ball for us. Don't worry. Clearly that hasn't happened because Trudeau is willing to do, and you're going to say ego. Yeah, maybe, because he's got the giant narcissist ego. But Trudeau is desperate to hang on to power. He's doing anything he can. And we know it's a dead man walking government here. They have absolutely no moral authority to be making any decisions on behalf of Canadians. I don't know if they ever did, but especially now, they have no right to be making any decisions on behalf of Canadians. Never mind passing any new laws. It's absolutely outrageous. So is Pierre going to continue on with Klaus Schwab's plan? It doesn't look like it. And the reason for that is because, and by the way, Jagmeet Singh, he's also a WEF, right? These two guys are desperate to hang on to any shred of power they can. And they know that when the Conservative majority is formed, and it will be, they will have nothing, no power at all, except to stand up from the corner and go, I'm sorry, what? I can't hear you. You've only got like 2 seats. This is the polling.
Well, it's not breaking news to say the Prime Minister is struggling in the polls, but polls analyst Philippe Fournier is offering an interesting take on the impact of Justin Trudeau's struggles, writing an article in the Walrus magazine with the headline, Liberal Freefall Fuels Quebec Sovereignty. To tell us more, we're now joined by Philippe Fournier, the man who started 338 Canada. Philippe, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Michael.
Now, I think, to be fair, you did not write the headline of this, but I still think the article you wrote that led to this headline is very interesting because, you know, it does point to not only Liberals doing poorly nationally in the polls, but also sovereignist parties in Quebec doing well right now. So let's walk people through this, beginning with, I think, to understand the argument, we need to look at where things currently stand in the polls with the Liberals 20 points behind. What's the seat projection that 338 is giving the party right now?
Well, at the national level, at the federal level, we see the Conservatives are hovering around 220 seats, which would be the greatest caucus in size in Canadian history. And the Liberals are hovering around the 60-seat mark. But this does not include this week's polls. And we saw that the numbers went down again for the Liberals this week. So we're going to have to readjust that. But the point of the article, basically, Michael, was that the by-election in La Salle-Aymar-Verdun offered a glimpse of what could be at the next general election, especially in Quebec. Because in Quebec, the Liberals have lost maybe somewhere around 8 or 10 points on average. But in the by-election, we saw they dropped 16 points. And so what happened there? We have to remind viewers that polls measure theoretical support. Sometimes when you get into an election, theoretical support is not necessarily equal to actual support in the voting booths. And the scenario is, look, the Bloc Québécois won with 28% of the vote. It was a split vote. Well, there are many ridings in the province of Quebec where a split vote could cost the Liberals at the benefit of the Bloc Québécois.
Oh, and to that, we do have a board here for the Quebec portion of your seat projections. Let's put it up for people at home to see, because when you look at the actual numbers, you're looking at it, and really is that column that's more yellow on people's screen. 42 of Quebec seats is the projected lead that you give for the Bloc Québécois. The Liberals down to 21. Right. And that goes to something else that you say, that the Liberals could be looking at a collapse in the next vote. Is that hyperbole?
It's not hyperbole when you consider that the Liberals are down in Francophone Quebec. And in the past 3 elections with Justin Trudeau, the Liberals did do well in Quebec. They won more seats and won more votes than any other party in the province. But when you start losing those close races, including also in and around Montreal, so outside of the Montreal, Gatineau, and Laval area in Quebec, the Liberals won many seats in the past elections, but always by razor-thin margins. And so if we apply this swing that we see in the polls to the projection, we see that the Liberals would be wiped out of the Eastern Townships. They would probably lose everything they have in Quebec City. And even François-Philippe Champagne's seat in Saint-Maurice-Champlain would be in danger considering those numbers. And so
okay, so he's going to go on to say that with the resurgence of the Bloc Québécois, they're going to get over 40 seats, he says there, according to the latest model. And the Parti Québécois surging as well in Quebec, that Quebec sovereignty is once again going to be back on the table. I'm not sure if you noticed there how many seats the Conservatives are projected to win in Quebec, but that number was 12, 13 seats. Currently, they have 10. The Conservatives are not a big player in the province of Quebec for whatever reason. I can't tell you. It seems to be the Bloc and the Liberals and a little bit of NDP and a little bit of Conservative, but mostly Bloc and Liberal. So could this be a problem going forward? Are they going to start rattling their sabers again, demanding more and more stuff? They're going to feel empowered, the Bloc will. They're going to have 42 seats, more than they have now by 5 or 6. And the Parti Québécois could be in power again, the separatist party in Quebec. Do you think Poilievre's going to care one way or the other about this? I personally don't. I don't think he's going to give a rat's butt, because Stephen Harper said it 10, 12 years ago. He said, we recognize the nation of Quebec in a united Canada. And I'm going to ask you guys this, because I'm getting a little tired. If this issue comes back again, I'm going to say, maybe it's time that you guys leave. You have been standing in the way of energy projects now for the past 20 years. You've been taking way more than you ever give back to this country, speaking as a Westerner. And I'm not sure exactly what it is you contribute to this country, except bitching and moaning and complaining. And you want to know what? I know there's viewers in Quebec watching this right now. And I'm sorry if you guys feel insulted by that, but the rest of Canada feels held hostage every time the separatists start rattling their sabers. Now, I know that's probably not the mentality on the ground in the province. But nonetheless, that's what we're hearing out here. That's what we get all the time. I think there are big, big, big changes coming, any way you slice it, after the American election especially. We're in a new age now. And I don't believe that anything is going to be the way it was. Some things may, depending on which cabal wins. And remember also, you guys, I talked about this, maybe it was in the extension for the all access pass holders. Maybe it was on the social media part of the show. I can't remember which, but I did talk about this the other night briefly. I believe there's 2 cabals in play right now, maybe more, but there's definitely 2. You've got the World Economic Forum / China cabal, the communists, the totalitarians, and then you've got the Zionist cabal. And I believe Donald Trump is a member of that cabal. And that's the cabal that everybody watching this show right now, everybody who exists on the planet right now, outside of communist countries, has lived under since they were born. It's the system that we've always been trying to find our footing in, that we've always tried to be successful in, that we were given the illusion of freedom in. So ultimately speaking, and so this is why I got a little upset earlier in the show when people say, don't waste our time with this crap. Bottom line, you guys, we're going to wind up under the control of one of these 2 cabals. Unless all of the people finally rise up and say enough is enough. But what happens after that? Does some new strongman come from the east and take control of things going forward? Have you thought about what happens after? Do we go back to feudalism? Every man for himself? Protect you and yours, and that's it? Like old school days? And then eventually somebody comes along and wants to be the king. Somebody develops a form of currency, because that is human nature. We trade. And some people trade better than others. Unless, of course, they turn us all into bio-robots without any individual will, which is what the WEF wants to do. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in right now, you guys. Unless all of the world wakes up and decides, hey, here's a new system. Has anybody thought about this new system in this Great Awakening plan? What's the new system? What's it going to be? Representation by population? Republic, democracy? No. When people sit there and rage against the machine, like Jeremy McKenzie, and you know what? I don't have a problem with people being upset. Clearly, we all have a right to be upset, but we start talking about taking things over. But what then? Who's going to run the show then? Has anybody done any forward thinking about that? So before you sit there and rant and rave and carry on about there's no political solution, and I don't believe there's a political solution at this point. I believe there's a political win, but I don't believe there's a political solution to all of this, what's going on. We're going to have to pick a side. Which cabal do you want to be a member of? You've been working your entire life inside of one cabal. That's probably the cabal you want to go with. And until somebody comes up with a better solution, a better idea, that's what we're left with. That's it. Sorry to be so brutally honest with you guys, but that's how I see it anyway. We'll take time for a grassroots reformation. Absolutely, Michael. You're absolutely right. And how would that go? That's the other thing. Let me get back to this for a second. You want to talk about a grassroots reformation? Okay, fine. Let's talk. Have you seen division within the Freedom and Truth movement going back 4 years now? Be honest. Write it in the comments. Have you seen division within this group of people who have been fighting for our rights and freedoms for the past 4 years? Yes, there has been incredible division because one person over here has got an idea, and then the other person over here has got another idea. And this person here, another person says, well, those are both stupid ideas. We're not going to do that. Well, you've got more money. Oh, I see. You're stealing money. And all of a sudden it turns into this big, huge fight. And I've played video for you guys of people on the freedom movement actually fighting, physically fighting, jumping on cars with each other and completely forgetting that we're up against an opponent here. We should all be joining forces. So, of course, there's division. Of course, there is, because we're all individual thinkers. So, going forward, how do we bring all that back together? We're going to have to come up with a plan. And we're all going to have to agree at some point. And I don't know. I mean, when we look at the majority and all these polls, I mean, we're a long way from that at this stage of the game, guys. Right now, what we're doing is trying to keep communist, totalitarian dictatorships out of our lives. That's what we're trying to do. But when you look at polls across the country and you see certain percentages of certain groups of people who are completely oblivious still to what is going on in the world, you kind of go, huh, wow, maybe we have to do better getting the word out there. Do you think? Of course we do. There's a poll that shows the majority of Canadians opposing new gas and diesel car ban, which is supposed to take effect in 2035. This bill has been in place for a while now, the Trudeau government. I'm sure you heard about this over a year ago. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation released a Leger poll showing 59% of Canadians oppose the federal government's ban on new gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. Are you surprised at that number? 2035. 59%. What? Who are these other 41% that don't oppose it? The results of the poll are clear. Canadians don't want the government to ban new gas and diesel vehicles, from Franco Terrazzano, who's the federal director of the CTF. Canadians want the option to buy new gas-powered minivans and diesel work trucks, and taxpayers know this ban will cost a fortune. Federal government plans to ban the sale of new gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. The Leger poll asked Canadians if they support or oppose the federal ban. 59% say I oppose the ban, 29% support the ban, 12% of people don't even know. Among those who are decided on the issue, 67% of Canadians oppose the federal ban on new gas and diesel vehicles. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, how do we wake them up? Oh, by the way, one more thing about the Canadian government. Did you know that there is a Sikh caucus in the Canadian government? Here they are, right here, with Randy Boisseau for some reason in there. I didn't know he was Sikh. And by the way, this is across party lines. These are all the Sikh MPs across the country. I didn't realize they had a Sikh caucus made up of Liberal, NDP, and Conservative MPs. Why do you have a Sikh caucus that crosses party lines? What's the point in that? There's also a Black caucus like that as well across the country. Liberals, NDP, Conservatives. Because maybe they're a little bit more dedicated to the homeland than they are to Canada. There should not be any ethnic or foreign caucuses at all in our government. Ian Miles Chung on X says the hoarding has begun. The Longshoreman Strike will ensure that you have no food or anything for months. And here's a big lineup at a Costco in the United States of America.
This is beyond crazy. It's just turned 10 o'clock and the line for Costco is both sides of the building. Both sides of the building, which is crazy.
Toilet paper! I need toilet paper! How is this Longshoreman Strike going to affect Canada, or prices anyway? I think it's probably going to affect us in terms of supply and demand. Remember that we are the largest trading partner of the United States and they ours. So we bring in a lot of stuff from the United States. But if we can't bring in certain stuff from the United States because they're hoarding it all themselves, then we're going to have to bring it in from someplace else, or we're going to have to make it ourselves. And seeing as how we don't make it ourselves, at least not yet, we got to bring it in from somewhere else. So that increases costs. And there's going to be less supply, which means more demand, which means higher prices. Let's check out this little video clip here.
From Texas to Maine are all shut down. 45,000 workers off the job after labor negotiations stalled between their union and the United States Maritime Alliance. The reverberations will be felt across Canada too, says the Canadian Chamber of Commerce.
It's a very, very difficult time right now for Canadian businesses to plan due to that lack of predictability and stability in our supply chains.
Billions in goods flow daily across our border with the U.S., and trade makes up 2/3 of our GDP.
The longer it drags on, the worse it's going to get.
Supply chain experts say a shutdown lasting more than a few days will stoke inflation. Retail experts say it would also disrupt holiday shopping and Black Friday deals and limit a company's ability to reorder the most popular products.
You could see, depending on which retailer you are, you could see certain items coming from South America, from Europe, maybe even the Middle East that may be impacted.
The immediate concern, perishable goods that will go to waste idling in a shipping container.
There could be a fairly sizable impact on fresh fruits and vegetables and other automotive products, chemical products.
Port shutdowns highlight how quickly large businesses are able to reroute items to be shipped by plane, train, and truck. But mom and pop shops have fewer options.
Small businesses don't have the deep pockets of the Walmarts of this world. It's not just the strike in itself that is hurting businesses, but it's also the backlog that is created by a strike.
The latest estimates suggest it will.
Okay, we don't need to look at any global news anchors, but interesting in that some people are now saying, oh, so this is how they're going to cause the food shortages. Right? This is how they're going to do it. It's not going to be so obvious. It's going to be through a strike. So then we look into the rationale behind the strike and we find that all of the longshoremen are striking because they're not being paid enough, even though the average salary of a longshoreman, including overtime, which they get a lot of, is over 6 figures. And we see the leader of that particular union wearing $1,300 US sunglasses while doing an interview. And we start to wonder, are they in on it? It's quite possible. Who's engineering all of this? Come on. Who's fighting back against all of this? Are there white hats and are there black hats? Yeah. I don't want to put it like that, but sure, why not? One cabal versus another cabal. That's what I've been telling you guys for a while, and they are the ones moving the pieces. The question is who's doing what when? And there is going to be, at some point, rearing its head, a third cabal, I think. And that one's got a lot to do with the Middle East. Let's not kid ourselves. We talk about all of the oil that those sheiks over there control and the trillions of dollars that they have. Come on. I mean, those guys over there, they've got all kinds of resources. Don't think they're not players in this as well. The question is, are they a member of one cabal, another cabal, the two I've already established, or are they their own cabal, which would be a third cabal? And maybe they are. And then you've got the dissident, possibly former cabal members, like Elon Musk, who's the richest man in the world. Yes, his individual personal wealth is great compared to ours, obviously, but a drop in the bucket when put up against BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. I mean, seriously, guys, you know, you could sit there and you could follow the chart and you could see, oh, I see, it's the Bank of International Debt that's at the top of this pyramid. Or is it Larry Fink at the top of this pyramid? Or is it the family of 300 who is at the top of this pyramid? And we can go ahead and speculate all day long. Or can we say that it's just a bunch of corrupt billionaires who were trying to control the world for their own personal gain? Of course. Or can we say it's all just a bunch of happenstance? Sure, we can think that. None of us has been able to put it all together yet. But the good thing from all of this is that now we're awake and aware. And once you're awake and aware, you can go ahead and enjoy your football games. You can enjoy all of the things that you used to enjoy in life, but knowing that you have a voice, that you now know that there is something else going on and that you can fight back against it because you got a team, a group of other people who are like-minded, like us, right? So you can enjoy your life. I mean, like, I don't want anybody to sit back and think, oh my God, we're doomed. We're all doomed. No. And as long as you find faith in whatever you find faith in, unstoppable. We're unstoppable. We know. They call this the Great Awakening. And while I'm not a big fan of that name because it's got religious overtones, like heavy religious overtones, and it's not very marketable, really, I believe in it. I believe that people are waking up. Slowly but surely, they are waking up. They're just, yes, I saw a guy gassing up his car today with a mask on. There's going to be stragglers, and there's going to be people who get left behind completely. But we are having success. We are making headway in all of this. So don't get depressed about it either. Don't think you have to be fighting this battle every single minute of every single day for the rest of your life. You will be in your own way. But knowing is the greatest gift. And your chance will come to take part in the fight. And that may be just convincing one person of what's going on. And you don't have to rant and rave and start waving your arms around and showing video evidence of all of that stuff. It just comes down to a rational conversation of coincidence, ultimately. I mean, you know, the way I would go about it, if I was sitting down and having a coffee with a buddy of mine, I'd say, wow, the world is sure effed up these days, huh? You ever seen it like this before? Can't say that I have. And just take it from there. I mean, you know everything that's going on. And when it comes to a certain point in that conversation, and you say, what do you think about all this being kind of tied together somehow? I never thought about that. Ever heard of the World Economic Forum? Have you ever heard of the Sustainable Development Goals? 17 of them being pushed by the United Nations. Ever heard about diversity, equity, and inclusion? These people have never heard those expressions before. This is something else about many of us, because we've been hearing the same song over and over and over again for the past 2, 3, 4 years now. We've been wise to what's going on for quite some time. We get the feeling that everybody else knows, but they don't. So sometimes when you do go talk to somebody about this stuff, you're starting on season 13, episode 8 of the story. And they don't know what season 1, episode 1 is. They are completely clueless. And so you're bringing them into the middle of a movie. And who wants to sit down in the middle of a movie? Not many people. So you've got to start them off slow. You got to walk before you can run, and so on and so on and so on. So you got to bring them in gentle-like. And eventually they'll catch on for themselves. They'll find shows like this one, this show or shows like it all across the internet. And then they'll find out for themselves. And then they get to become members of a new community, and they go through that whole metamorphosis, that whole transition that all of us have gone through at some point in the past 4 years. Simple. All right. What have I got here? Oh, right. This story, I had it up on the screen before. It comes from the CBC, believe it or not. Thinking the unthinkable. They want us to go to war. NATO wants Canada and allies to gear up for a conventional war. We haven't got the equipment. And it seems to me the only thing that the military has been concerned with in these past 12 months is making sure male restrooms have got tampons in them. We don't have any weapons. Our Navy is pretty much nil. And we don't have any money to fund them. So let's see how Canada could even become a part of any kind of ground war. But why would NATO come to us and say, get ready for a ground war, get ready for a conventional war? What's going on? Are we going into Ukraine? Finally, we got to fight with the Russians once and for all. Are we going to move towards World War III? The U.S. military declares the Air Force ROTC candidates too white. And the goal is to reduce white male population to 43% of officer candidates by 2029. Notice they don't use 2030 in there because that's too obvious. It's really unbelievable. And the Russians and the Chinese are laughing at us. Trump election conspiracist Tina Peters sentenced to 9 years in prison by a Colorado judge. This is all about the last election and the cheating that was going on. You saw it. What was it? 10,000 Mules or 1,000 Mules? That movie that pretty much proved there was all kinds of cheating in the last election, right? I mean, I remember watching the last election in the United States going, hey, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're telling me now that Biden is suddenly leading when he's been behind by 100,000 votes all night in places like Michigan and Wisconsin? Huh? What? And then we saw why later on, and they covered it up and they didn't listen. Tina Peters, a former Colorado Republican, I'm probably going to get banned on YouTube for saying that just now. Maybe Facebook too. Tina Peters, a former Colorado Republican county clerk who espoused the false conspiracy theory that Donald Trump lost the 2020 conspiracy theory, lost the 2020 election due to ballot fraud, was sentenced today to 9 years in prison for crimes related to a breach of her county's voting system. The district judge, his name is Matthew Barrett, he said to her, "You're no hero. You're a charlatan who used and is still using your prior position in office to peddle a snake oil that's been proven to be junk time and time again. Your lies are well documented and these convictions are serious. I'm convinced you'll do it all over again if you could." That's what the judge told the 68-year-old former Mesa County clerk who was accused of using another person's security badge to allow someone else to gain access to her county's election system. And that person who used the badge was affiliated with the MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell. "You're as defiant a defendant as this court has ever seen," the judge told Peters. Peters, who had requested probation, told the judge before being sentenced, "I've never done anything with malice to break the law. I've only wanted to serve the people of Mesa County." Mesa County District Attorney Daniel Rubenstein told Barrett that Ms. Peters has demonstrated repeatedly that she does not think she did anything wrong. She submitted a statement to the court in pre-sentence investigation, giving excuses, giving justifications, but never once acknowledged that she did something wrong, and that was not the way to handle this. So they want her on her knees. They want her on her knees. What does every 12-step program start with? It starts with acknowledging you have a problem. This is mind control, ultimately, is what this is. This is retraining. She has not acknowledged that she has a problem. And there's no purpose in rehabilitation for somebody who does not think they did anything wrong. Cultural Marxism comes into play. I didn't know that Will Ferrell has a new documentary promoting transgenderism, so you can scratch Will Ferrell off my list. Here is Rosie O'Donnell defending it. Doesn't she look good these days? Don't you think?
Would they be accepting of her now? And it was very, very touching and honest. And I think it'll open up conversations all over the world about this subject. And it's so needed. You know, trans people are so rejected and so vilified, and it's so wrong, you know? It's so wrong. I mean, have compassion. Do you know what it takes to do what you need to do to feel okay in the world? What it takes when you're a trans person? You know,
mental
all
health,
of this
how about-
bigotry and hatred that comes at you. I mean,
It's a mental.
It's they're the ones that everyone feels free to kick around, you know? And
No, they don't. You want to know why, Rosie? Because now we can be arrested for it, for kicking the trans people around. And they're more than happy to kick anybody who doesn't agree with them around. The thing is, and by the way, here's a prominent LGBT activist who's been charged with rape, torture, or barbarism of a disabled 4-year-old. That's in France. Not going to get into that. But it's amazing the world views that these people have. They think they're right. They think that they are right somehow. I don't know where that, I know where the indoctrination comes from in part with the younger people. Obviously, it comes from their universities. But as far as the older people go, where did they get indoctrinated? It doesn't make any sense to me. Have they spent too much time alone on a screen? Are their minds that fragile that something these wackadoos have said to them has actually gotten in and made an impact and made them change their minds about basic biology? I just don't understand. I mean, you could sit me in a room with a trans person. We could have a reasonable conversation. I don't hate those people. I don't want anybody thinking that I do. But they'll never convince me that they're a woman trapped in a man's body or vice versa. I will say, what you need is therapy, because you're not a woman in a man's body or vice versa. You're not. You were born a man. You are a man. You may have female characteristics, sure, but you're still a man. And you'll be happier living your life as a man. But they're trying to change our society, disrupt our society, you see. So that there's men, women, and all of these other things. That's why I started, one of the reasons anyway, that I found faith and started going to church about 1.5 years ago. I haven't been as much as I'd like lately, but I'll definitely be going back more and more and more. Alton R. Williams, his I Can't Do It sermon is absolutely brilliant. Listen to this.
Church is bowing to this LGBTQ thing. Yes, they are. I'm seeing it happen all the time. What they did, here it go. They pushed LGBTQ on black people. And now, in order for you to be in line with black folk, you gotta almost accept LGBTQ. Preach, Holy Ghost. Here's what hurt me. Now, I'm finna say it, you ain't gonna like it, but I'm giving you truth. When Obama put the colors on the White House, acknowledging this nation honors LGBTQ, I saw black folk and black preachers compromise. We got to accept it because our black president goes along with it. I don't care what president, what color he is. If you ain't in line with God, I can't stand with you. And that's what's causing y'all. Yeah, I'm preaching up in here. You're getting off with God because you're trying to stand with black.
We're getting serious now. Just move the chair.
I can't vote for a party that is for all kind of sexual perversions. I can't do it. I can't vote for a party that's going to accept transgenders going into women's restrooms. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't go with a party that wants to cut little girls' breasts off to make them boys. I can't go with a party that says you can be a boy today and a girl tomorrow. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't support a party that wants to remove God from its party platform. You in trouble when the nation forgets God. I can't follow a party that wants to sexualize our children in school, put drag queens in front of them, reading them little children's stories. I can't do it. I can't support a party that wants to take the rights of parents away. In California right now, parents are being arrested because they won't go along with the sexualization of their children. But there are many parents that are compromising. Y'all got to make a decision. It's either God or the devil.
Alton R. Williams' I Can't Do It sermon has been seen by millions across the planet. That's it for social media tonight, you guys. We're going to move to the All Access and the extension on shadowdavis.com. I'll see you there in a couple of minutes' time. Don't forget, it's very important that you like and share. Get this program out to as many people as you possibly can. So on Facebook, you like and share. You smash that like button. On YouTube, if you're watching live there now. If you're watching on X, it's a repost and a heart. If you're watching on Rumble, you guys know what to do. You highlight the URL above the screen. Once you hit share beneath the screen, from there you can copy and paste to your favorite location. Let's get this out to as many people as we possibly can. Thank you very much for being here tonight. There is no show tomorrow night. I've got an office day tomorrow with 2 meetings, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. I will not have the time to put a show together tomorrow night. But I will be in Selkirk on Saturday afternoon between 1 and 4 at the Selkirk Rec Center for the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Plan 2050 information session with Ken Drysdale of Manitoba Stronger Together and Ken Lee. These two men are so knowledgeable about this document that they are going to present what's in it, what it means, and how it affects you on Saturday afternoon, Selkirk Rec Center between 1 and 4 o'clock. I believe the capacity for seating at that venue is something like 400, maybe 500. So please, if you're planning on coming, arrive early. Don't think this Winnipeg regional, this metropolitan plan is dead, because it's not. They might be cooking up something new, but it's not dead. So we'll see you on Saturday afternoon in Selkirk again between 1 and 4 o'clock. All right. You guys have a great night. I will catch you on Monday night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. Have yourselves a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. I just need to find the music. Oh, okay, bye for now.